So I'm actually working on an 8-piece skirt using a plain and pattern fabric. The first thing I had to do was, from the edge of the fabric, I measured 13 inches. 13 inches would now serve as my foot width. So for me to get my foot width is the wideness of the skirt at the base. That's what gives it that mermaid effect. So what I did was that I divided the total number of yards I'll be working on by the number of pieces, which is 8. So assuming I was to work on 3.5 yards, 3.5 yards, if you convert it to inches, it will give you 126 inches. Then you divide it by 8. So for my result, I actually got 13. So I marked out 13 and I folded it so that the edge will touch 13. So the next measurement I'm taking now is the full length of the skirt. I'm not working with a pattern paper, so I'm going to be working directly on this fabric. So the next one I'm marking from the center, that's the part I folded, is the round hip measurement divided by 2 times the number of hips. 2 times the measurement of the hip. Whatever I get to add 0.5 so that my sewing allowance so that it doesn't get to shift after sewing. Round hip measurement was 44. I divided it by 16, which is 2 times the number of hips. Then I got about 3.25. I added 0.5 to it to give me 3.75 or thereabout. So just do the math for yours. So the next line I marked from the top was the knee length minus 1 inch. I minused 1 inch because I'm still going to attach tail. So when you mark your, say, 3.75, you have to mark your 3.75 from the upper part up to the knee length. I used 19 for mine. So you now spread it towards the base. You spread it to touch the base, so you see how it slants. That's actually one thing I love about pattern making. Pattern making makes the teaching a lot easier, because if I had used pattern for this class, you would have seen my lines better, but the fabric covers it, so now you don't get to see my lines so clearly. But nevertheless, we're going to proceed, especially for those that are conversant with freehand. They'll understand this well. So this now will serve as my centerpiece for the skirt. So it was on fold. Now I've opened it, so you can see that the top was slim, then the down is wide. So that's how it's going to be. So for all pieces skirts that I make, I use the center piece to create I use the center piece to get the other pieces. So now I also want to construct 2 pieces that are going to be on the side, but I'm not going to use 13. I'm going to use half of 13 because those pieces are going to be like half. Okay, so by the time I'm done with this skirt, you'll see how it looks, or you might have already seen it on the thumbnail, what it looks like. Half pieces. So since it's half pieces, I'll just measure 13 divided by 2, which is 6.5. Then I'll get the length and then cut it out. Most times, to avoid wasting materials, I don't cut out directly. I just mark and then do my measurements. So this 19 I've marked now is my knee length. So you might be able to see the lines better now because this is plain and pattern fabric. So I had to bring back the other fabric and I had to fold it back so that I'll be able to get the slant. I want to get the slant of the side, and then I want to get that straight side and then the slanted side, because you're joining side to side. You're joining the side of this one to the side of the plain fabric. So yes, it needs to be exactly the same. So I had to place it together. This time around, I actually didn't work with my pin because somehow it's more like an emergency job and I didn't have my pin beside me, so I needed to just lay everything and drop everything about pattern making at this stage, so that those that would like to learn freehand would also learn it without much issues. So you mark. It's very important you mark. If you have your pin, it's also best that at this stage you use your pin to hold the center piece to the pattern fabric. So I'm also marking the other side that is on a fold. I'll mark it all the way to the knee length. Now look at what is going to happen now. I'm going to turn it around. Once I've marked the other edge to the end, I've marked the end, so what I'll just do is I'll use a metal rule and connect it together. So you're connecting your knee length on a slant to the edge of the fabric, okay? So now we are also going to turn the other side that has a slant. You know, the folded part doesn't have a slant, so we're going to turn this other side of the fabric that has a slant to face the other side, so that we can equally slant the other side too. But either way, I want to make sure that I don't exceed 6.5 inches. Why? Because I've already calculated using our rules of Fashmathics. The method I just told you, I divided by the number of pieces. So that's basically what I had to do. I don't want to use more than the material I calculated, so that it doesn't get too big. So now I'm done marking it. The next thing I'm going to do is that I'll go ahead and cut it out. So you see this piece right here. This is half of one piece. It's not up to 1. So I'm going to have 4 halves. That will give us half plus half. That's 1 piece for the front. That's 2 pieces for the front and 2 pieces for the back. So you have 1 piece that was split into 2 for the front, and then 1 piece that was split into 2 for the back. So I'm going to cut a total of 4 pieces for this particular plain fabric. I just wanted a contrast. I don't like the whole idea of having one piece into 8 parts, 4 in front, 4 at the back. It kind of looks boring anyway, so I prefer to do the 4 pieces. So I'm also going to cut out this one. So if you have any questions about this or anything about the calculations, just leave it in the comment section. I'm also going to drop a little note on the steps I followed for this video in the comment section. The calculations and all that is going to be in the comment section. Okay, so when I was cutting, I actually cut 2 pieces at once, so I had to. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. Guys, it's already looking beautiful. The center piece will be in the middle, the 2 plain pieces will be by the sides, to the left and to the right. So I'm also going to cut 2 other plain pieces for the back. So remember, we're not using pattern for this work at all, so it should be easier for you if you're already used to freehand. So if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos. So on this channel, I post a lot of fashion business tips, plain pattern making, straight cut, freehand cutting methods and all that. So you can check my other videos, and there's always something to learn from this channel. So now I want to cut the side piece. The side piece is a patterned fabric. So I'm going to get the patterned fabric and I'm going to get the center piece. Remember what I told you about the center piece being the masterpiece, like it's the main piece you use in cutting other pieces. So I have to use that to get the pattern for other pieces. So this is what I'm also going to do. I'm going to get 1 part and measure 13. I'm very particular about my 13 because it's what I calculated. I don't want excess, I don't want shortage, so I just had to mark the 13. So it's sorry you can't see it too well, but you cope. I'll make another video using pattern on how to create this. So I always place the widest part of the skirt on the wider part of the fabric. So you can see that that's the wider part of the fabric. The other part has already been slimmed down because it was from that part we cut out. That was where we cut out the widest part of the other leg. That's the centerpiece, I guess. So all I had to do first was to mark out the outline of the slanted part. Okay, that slanted part outline is very important because that's where you're going to connect all other pieces to. So it's very important you mark out the outline. It doesn't have to be straight. Please note, it does not have to be straight. It has to be slanted. So now that I've gotten my slanted outline and I've also gotten the length, I always prefer to cut my fabric in front. Once I've started cutting in front, like this one now, I already started cutting in front, so I'll have to continue cutting in front. So if I'm cutting at the back, I have to continue cutting at the back as well. So you see that straight edge now, I had to turn it upside down because I wanted to cut at the back and it wouldn't match up if I cut it from the front. So I had to measure from that edge. Sorry, I didn't realize it was cut off by my camera. I had to measure round hip from the edge, round hip divided by 4 from the edge, from the outer edge to the plain and to the next fabric I'm working on. Then after marking the measurement, I added an extra 3 inches that is going to serve as our sewing allowance. So I had to measure from the upper edge of the fabric down to mark 10 inches. So if you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. Please don't reach into my DM except you want to enroll for any of our online courses or physical classes in Enugu. So this other line I had to mark was 10 inches. The hip line is 10 inches away from the skirt waist. So I had to measure round hip divided by 4 and mark. So this other line too is the 19, which is our knee line. So I had to measure it. Whatever it is you get in the line above it, like round hip divided by 4, assuming I get 10, I'll minus, okay, let's say assuming I got 11, when, okay, yeah, it's 11, round hip divided by 4 is 11. When you mark your 11, minus 1.5, that should give you 9.5 inches now on the knee length. So we'll mark 9.5 inches as round measurement on the knee length, starting from the center of the skirt. That's from the edge, from this edge of the skirt. So you move into the next skirt, then add your 3 inches sewing allowance. So you connect the skirt waist to the hip. See, I'm doing pure freehand for this class. So you connect it to the knee. So while marking the knee, I already added 3 inches together, so I didn't have to add again. So you now connect to the edge. That's that place you marked the 13 inches, and you go ahead and cut. So when you cut out this piece, I'm going to show you how beautiful it would look if it was for a slimmer person, because the person I'm making this skirt for is not really a slim person. So she has big tummy and you wouldn't see much of the shape in this outfit, because if it was for a very slim person that had slim waistline, you would have seen the sharp curve between the waistline and then the hip and all that. But don't bother about it, even if you're not making it for someone that has a lot of curves, like someone that has very sharp contrast in her shapes. It's still fine. The most important part of it is that it fits the person when you're done. So this is how the skirt is going to be when I'm done. I'm going to have my centerpiece on one side, and I'm going to have the pattern on the other side. Then I'm going to have the hip piece, that's a side piece for the hip, on the other side. So I already cut only one piece, I didn't cut two. That's why I don't have anyone to fill up the left. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 3 other pieces for the hips using the patterned fabric. So just work with me, and that's it. So finally, after cutting it, this is what I have. This is what my front piece is looking like. Isn't it beautiful? So we are also going to have our back piece, one side piece, one beautiful piece, plain piece in the middle. Beside it, then we'll now have our middle piece.